right, so you can tell I'm getting tired. You see me leaning on stuff. In our role as Ross coordinator, we intersect with a ton of other stakeholders, people that are trying to do things in the community. And I was meeting with a woman who was in charge of a county food insecurity initiative, and I said, well, how does recovery intersect with food insecurity? And as we were talking, we said, well, what if we could do a sober living house that also did something with food insecurity? I'm like, wait a second. A while back, somebody sent me a video of an interview on TV about somebody that was doing a recovery farm. Let me see if I could dig it up. Since I had received that, I had gone to Washington, D.C. with Jimmy McGill, and we had gone to dinner with my next speaker. And so I'm like, oh, you know, beautiful woman, and she's nice, and she's smart, and all that. So I pull up this video, guess who they're interviewing? Right? Oh my God, I know her. So I called her and I said, hey, I want to talk to you about your recovery farm. And she's like, oh my God, I've been waiting for somebody to call me, because when we built it to be duplicated. She will tell you all the cool stuff that they have done on this recovery farm. I am trying to build a recovery farm here in our area. So that is what we are going to do. We are going to do. She's going to leave, and we're going to build a recovery farm. You with me? Do it with me. All right, we're going to build a recovery farm. So, without further ado, I would like to introduce Stefanie Robinson, CEO, founder of Hope Recovery Community.
How's everybody doing? Good. Hanging in there? Long day, but this has been amazing, right? It's been amazing. A lot of conversation around innovation, a lot of conversation around peer support recovery. My name is Stefanie Robinson. I'm the founding executive director of Hope Recovery Community. I'm also a person in long-term recovery. So for me, that means I haven't used drugs, alcohol, or engaged in eating disorder behaviors for over 16 years. I think it's important to know that, yes, I am a woman in recovery, but I'm more than just that. And that's Piper next to me. She's in second grade. Jacob, he just turned 13. We are fine. I promise. It is fine. I haven't been to as many meetings, but I need to get there because I have a 13-year-old in my house. It's fine. It's fine. And then my husband John, who has 13 years in recovery, and I always tell him, as long as I do the next right thing, I will always be beating you because I'm incredibly competitive, right? So, John is our director of operations at Hope Recovery Community because we thought working together in nonprofit would be really smart. Yeah, also not the best idea. But here we are, and the real stars of the show are Bogey and Bruno. They are my black and brown field spaniels, super rare dog, this super cool dog. And don't let John fool you, he does not have the biggest fish on this slide. But the closer that fish gets to that camera, you know, like the selfie angles you're trying to work? Yeah, fish, you kind of go the opposite way, right? Because they get bigger the closer they appear. And so, I am fortunate to be the executive director of Hope Recovery Community. I also am a founding member of the National Peer Recovery Alliance. I don't see Jimmy McGill, he was here, but Gerald was part of, Sam is a part of. I'm working on collegiate recovery at the state of Ohio for OCAR, the Ohio Citizen Advocates for Addiction Recovery. And then in my spare time, I do a little bit of consulting through the Opioid Response Network. Innovation. Ultimately, innovation is not born from a dream. Let's be honest. Innovation is typically born from struggle. And you know who knows innovation more than anybody is people in recovery. You take two things that already exist and you do them in a different way and you get different results. Hello, innovation. Right? We are experts in innovation. Our lives are examples of innovation. Yet we work in a space that we regularly hear, that's the way we've always done it, so that's the way we're going to do it. It is not working. It's not working. We're not achieving the desired results. So I like today that we're having a lot of conversations around pushing on the system, because the system is still flawed, right? I like when we talk about innovation, we gotta think outside the box. And that can be scary to take risks. I was taught to fear failure. Today I ask my kids every week, I'm like, what are you failing at this week? Because if you're not trying something new, you're not taking risks, right? And so we have to learn to be able to fail. We have to learn to be able to get out of our comfort zone. If you wanted to go out of the comfort zone, start a farm, right? Somebody asked me yesterday, are we raised on a farm? I was like, no. You know anything about farming? No. Because that's not a requirement. Expertise is not a requirement to build, right? And so we've got to be willing to take risks. We've got to understand what you've heard in this room today, what you will see all across the country in communities, because I love grassroots local recovery. Like the nitty-gritty Friday night meetings, taking people to detox, right? But remember this. Remember that a small group of citizens can literally change the world. It's the only absolute thing that ever happened. For a long time, I was like, you know, my friends were dying. I got back from treatment 16 years ago, and it was like, there was no recovery support services in my community. There was no recovery housing for women. You had to kind of like scratch a lottery ticket to find the right meeting where it wouldn't be like a bad experience. You know, and I was just like somebody's coming. They are coming. Right? They're going to come and solve our problems. They're not coming.
That's right.
We are the they.
Yes.
You want to know how to solve the addiction crisis? You can look at the 24 million Americans in recovery today.
Woo!
Guess
Right.
what? We're doing it. The problem is that you want to invite us to a table, like Jimmy McGill and I like to say, it is our table. We should be sending out those invitations. You know what I mean? And sometimes I'm at a table and I just feel like a box that's been checked. Oh, we invited somebody to recovery. That's not enough. We need lived experience from the top down and the bottom up, right? Because we understand recovery. And 5 years ago, 6 years ago, in Little Medina, Ohio, we're about 30 miles south of Cleveland, a group of us in the recovery community, a group of my close friends, said, we need more. We have nowhere to go. We have to go to a meeting. What about before the meeting? What about after the meeting? What about New Year's? What about every other day of the week? Every other hour of the day? Where can we go to do recovery? And I started to learn about recovery community organizations. And so I said, all right, let's start a nonprofit. Luckily, we didn't know what we didn't know. Because we never would have done it had we known what we had to do. Right? And so we were established in 2018. We opened our first recovery community center. Right? RCOs are doing peer-based recovery support, education and outreach, and advocacy. That's our first place. This is what it looks like. I think it's important to show because it's high quality, high standards, modern, it's pretty. The first person that walked in there said, that's too nice for addicts. I said, that's a problem. We need to raise the bar on recovery centers and recovery housing. What I didn't know was that this was going to cause a problem in my community because you can't bring trash into my community. Because this is what they're used to. This is what it looks like. So that was our first recovery center. Sam mentioned we went on this philosophy: recovery equals willingness plus opportunity. If recovery was a math equation, to me, this is it. When a person becomes willing, and sometimes that is just a speck, that is a cracked door, a moment in their life when they think life might be able to be different, we have to meet it with opportunity. Opportunity wrapped in lived experience is magic. And I love clinical providers, don't get me wrong. But in a perfect world, you have a clinical provider and then you have lived experience, traveling the journey with people, right? And we also went with seeking help should not be harmful. Why is it so harmful to seek help in this country? Why do you have to make 50 phone calls? Why do you have to be treated like crap? Why do you have to be stigmatized and discriminated against by whoever? Right? So we went with that. We said, okay, we're not going to harm people in the process. And then we looked at most barriers are perceived. If the COVID pandemic showed us one thing, it was that barriers could come down real fast when they had to. That was weird. All of a sudden, all those big barriers around medicated assisted recovery, gone. All those barriers of behavioral health, assessments, virtual, gone. Most barriers are perceptions of barriers. You know who's good at really breaking those down? People in recovery. We get two options every day: we're helping or harming. If we work in this space, we are helping or we are harming. We are a bridge or we are a door. We are connecting people to a wellness or we are getting in the way. Get out of the way.
Yep.
Yeah.
There is enough barriers, right? So we weren't going to be another barrier. We were also going to focus on the 4 dimensions of recovery. It's not just about the management of symptoms. We have to have community that people can connect in. We have to have safe and stable places to live. I've not found one place in this country where there's enough stable recovery housing that exists today. Right? Thank you.
Yeah.
We also all have to have purpose. A lot of people return to use because they're like, I woke up doing the same thing every day, and I didn't feel like I had purpose. We have to create programs, recovery support services that provide purpose and significance and meaning. We opened Medina and then we realized that transportation is a barrier in our community, so we partnered with the church and we opened a second location in Brunswick for faith-based programming and reentry. Because our folks coming out of our jails and prison have unique needs that we cannot ignore. It's hard to find jobs, it's hard to find housing. Right? We have to help them get over those barriers. And then we opened our 3rd location in Wadsworth, right? Another city in our town. These are all within one county. Right? And then our facility, we outgrew it day 1. I don't believe if you build it, they will come. I look at it and say, if I build it, will they come? I gotta do the work. We gotta build collaborations. We gotta engage our community. I am 15 miles from the foundation of Alcoholics Anonymous. Today, the 12-step community loves us, right? Our facility wasn't big enough, so we added 3,000 square feet. Right? Our local County board paid for that. I don't like to pay for stuff, and I think other people should pay. That's why I'm in nonprofits. So they paid for that. You should make this as great. I'm solving all your problems, right? And then we said we need to merge with housing. So we merged with our local housing provider. So today we have 40 recovery housing beds. We're certified in NAR standards. Only serving men today because this organization was run by men, and men sometimes struggle to provide women's housing. Right, ladies?
Yeah.
Yes. Women run women housing really, really well. Right, so having a merge of that, this is what I'm going after now, right? We don't have enough recovery housing beds, and I'm like, we are going to build this out for women and children, men and children, and God forbid people get in relationship and recovery and want to live in recovery housing. Right? So, that's what we're building out. And then we just started to build programming. We are like the mecca, the buffet of recovery programming. Bingo, art, life skills, basic needs, 12-step, all recovery, smart recovery, educational seminars, game nights. We have a cornhole league, a bowling team. We do it all. I'm in 4th place in the cornhole league, I'm just saying. Right? Because we want to create an environment where recovery is fun, recovery is attractive. Our bowling league is in the 4th season. We have 2 softball teams. I think they're in their 5th season. And everybody gets medals and trophies if you win. We don't do participation. So this guy, we have a ping pong tournament. He won the ping pong tournament. Sam, what? He carried the trophy around for 2 weeks? Yeah. He'd never won a trophy before. Right? So those types of things. We do mental health drop-in. We do financial coaching. We do job coaching. Right? We look at the holistic piece. Recovery community organizations should be the hub of recovery in the community.
That's right.
Finding all the gaps and filling those gaps. Low barrier, no red tape, get out of our way. Right? We even have a motorcycle shop for our RCO. Because a group of people came to me and said, hey, we love motorcycles, we want to do motorcycle stuff in a low-risk atmosphere with other people who like motorcycles in recovery. And I was like, cool, I can write a grant for that. Right? And so now we have motorcycle rehab. They meet every Saturday, and they fix motorcycles and work on motorcycles and talk about motorcycles, and they don't do drugs and they don't do alcohol. Okay? Can't forget our families. RCOs that are neglecting the loved ones are going to be problematic long term. So we have family groups, we do family peer support one-on-one because some people don't like to go to groups. Family strategies, that's like an art class because a lot of people don't want to go to groups that are like actual groups and talk about stuff. Right? So you got to just find different approaches to support people. There's something for everyone. It is hard for a person to say no to me. And I like that. Right? Because I've thought through all of the no's. Right? You can't get here. Oh, I provide transportation. Oh, you need childcare. Oh, we can do that. Oh, you don't like it? Hey, cool. We got another people were lacking in life skills, so guess what? We made our own schools. The Recovery Life Institute for Excellence is a monthly life skill class for the folks in the recovery community. Because let's be honest, we could all use a little more help adulting. Right? She's like, I'm taking classes. Right? How do we manage our relationships? Like, it's so easy just to tell people don't be in a relationship. Like, when you get in a room and ask how many of you got in a relationship in the first year, every hand goes up. Right? We're all raising it. How about we talk about why, or how we connect and make sure we have strong emotional health and physical health and mental health. Maybe that's when we're ready for a relationship. Maybe something magic doesn't happen on day 365. Right? So, we developed that. Then we noticed that our workplaces that hired people in recovery, that they were really recovery friendly. So we're like, cool, we'll solve that. So we went to the great state of Nevada and New Hampshire, and they already had a recovery friendly workplace initiative. And we said, cool, we're gonna replicate that model. So now we go in, Sam, who heard from earlier, does a lot of this. We go in and we train businesses how to become recovery friendly. Guess what? You don't need to fire people. You can walk with us. And guess what? I work like I did drugs and alcohol. Pretty hardcore. You know, I don't have good boundaries. I'm addicted to my job. I'm a perfect employee. Right, and then we do special events. So this was our overdose awareness event that we just did on August 31st for International Overdose Awareness Day. Right, bringing our community together. We just did our 6th annual Ride for Recovery, so we take people in recovery, people with substance use disorders and motorcycles, two of the most stigmatized groups of individuals in the world, and we put them together, and we're like, that sounds fun, right? And so we do community outreach. This was a fundraiser. We raised $65,000 for the RCO. We had 200 bikes participate, and this is just a massive event that we do, again, just to promote recovery. And then we realized in our community, I don't know about here, but I'm guessing it's true, that we make a lot of assumptions that people have basic needs. We often tell somebody to go to a meeting before we ask if they have food. Right? Probation, you gotta do this, you gotta do this, you gotta do this. And the girls come to me and they're like, I don't even have extra underwear. So we wrote a grant for that. Right? We just solved the problems, and now we don't just hand them a bag. They get to shop in a little store that we have created. An empowering experience. Yes, thank you. Just applause. For years, I got phone calls, this person needs detox, inpatient, all of these things, and I got really tired until I wrote a grant for that. So now we have HopeLink. This is a staff that's on call 365 days a year, and they are navigating people to help them navigate the system. Because the system's hard to navigate, and when you're in active use, it is nearly impossible, right? You make one phone call, it doesn't go your way, and you're like, well, screw that, I told you. Right? Then you're off and running, till you run out, until something happens again, and then we get that window again. Right? We're done with that. So we want people to talk to a peer who has navigated that system themselves. We want to stay in contact with them, and they call us, I don't have transportation, I don't have insurance, I have an open wound, I have 18 felonies, and we're like, cool, you ready to go? Because we're going to help you navigate that. We're going to help you find the funding streams. There is no barrier that we cannot overcome, because we've overcome them all. This team will put 700 people in permanent services in the next year. It's, phenomenal. And I'm talking about all this because all of this leads to this crazy idea of the farm, right? We didn't just wake up one day in our community like, let's start a farm, kind of. But we had done a lot of work behind the scenes. So we only have 10 RCOs in the state of Ohio. So Illinois, you're crushing us. Right? We support multiple pathways. Currently, I employ 30 individuals. Literally, we have built the recovery workforce. We set the economy for the recovery workforce. We're open 7 days a week, 365 days a year, because recovery does not care. It loves nights and weekends and holidays. It's like its favorite time, right? And so a lot of our providers, they have to sleep, I guess, and we're working. We record over 6,000 to 7,000 recovery touches a month. We have peers that go into our jail. We have peers in our child welfare. We have family peers. Again, I just want recovery to be everywhere. We have transportation. And then we do a lot of advocacy as well. right? Here's our collaborations. I'm not going to read it. All I want you to tell you is that I can barely fit this on this slide anymore. We must work together. When I had this idea to start a recovery farm, I had no farming experience, but what I'm really good at is making friends. Right? People in recovery and peers, we know how to navigate our communities. We know how to build support networks. You need steel-toe boots, I know the guy that you go to. Right? You need a food bank, I know the best day, I know when we get in line, I know the best volunteer. Right? I have all the connections. So I use that, and we use that in Hope Recovery community. So we're collaborating with everyone because people in our communities are doing great work, and I have no desire to create any wheel that already exists. Right? I just want to connect it to the recovery community. We do education, we do outreach, we do advocacy, all over the place. We're showing up. We're showing up even when we don't want to, just like we do in recovery. We do a lot. Right? And that all led to this one day in my kitchen at the recovery center where a funder looked at me and he was making fun of me and he said, "Hey Stefanie, you got any more bright ideas?" Well, if you're asking, because if you're a funder and you're asking me if you have bright ideas, if I do, I'm sharing. Trust me, I've prepared that in so many showers that I have taken in the past year. I am ready to go. Right? I can spend any amount of money right now. Right? I'm ready to ask. And we don't make shots we don't take. We gotta shoot our shot. And I was like, well, if you're asking, I was at this tiny little farm, this little garden, and this recovery house, and I think that we should start a recovery farm in Medina County. And like big funders often do, he kind of laughed at me, told me all the reasons that didn't make sense, all the reasons that wouldn't work, why that was too much money, and that we didn't know, people in recovery don't know anything about farming, and we let it go. The next day, he got a call from the Medina County Parks District. They said, we have a farm, 17 acres, it's being donated, and we'd like to invite the recovery community in. Wow. Right? Text and he's like, "You've got divine connections, my friends," right? I can't explain it, and I don't need to, because I was like, let's go, right? We don't need to worry about the why. I wasn't even really so much worried about the how, and so we partnered with the Parks District. And what we have is we have 17 acres. It's 2 miles from our recovery community organization. Right, 17 acres. This was a gratitude meeting we did before we even started anything. I mean, can you imagine? It's like the spiritual high that takes place when you step on this property is profound. Yeah. Sam and I still have jobs because of this farm. Because if you're having a day, this is where we go. Right? On the left, you see a 12-bed men's recovery house. That's a level 2 NAR certified house. Back here is called Wells Cottage. I'll get to that later. But all of a sudden, we had 17 acres. The parks went in partnership with us. They wanted to give us a 99-year lease. My board was like, wait, what? We're like, let's start with 10. So we did a 10-year lease, but the parks couldn't take care of the land in the house. The parks don't have the workforce to be able to do these things. The parks are perfect partners for recovery support services. They have land and they have houses and they can't take care of them. Right? I wish I was that genius to figure that out, but I wasn't. They had just heard about all the work we were doing in the community, and that's why they made the phone call to us. So, for free, we get the land and the buildings. But running a recovery farm, I will tell you, is not even close to free. Right? It's very expensive. So I looked at those 4 dimensions of recovery and I thought to myself, this farm could actually house all 4 of these. What a beautiful concept. So we built a team. We have the 2 Johns on the end. Then we have Sam. Sam's on the farm team. Sam, raise your hand again. Give Sam a round of applause. She crushed it earlier. And Sam likes to garden, and she likes coffins. She has very odd interests, so it's fine. So when the farm idea came, I knew that Sam had to be part of it, right? Because we have to empower our teams and our leadership with things they love. This work is really hard, right? I was like, you're gonna help me build this farm. And then my husband, and then Mo with the goat, that's our farm manager. He has 30 years in corrections. So everybody else is in recovery. John, like over probably 30 years of recovery there, and then he has 30 years in corrections. And so this was our team, right? We were gonna really do something innovative. We were gonna take two things that already exist, recovery and farming, and we were gonna put them together in a new way. And I honestly had no idea what was gonna happen. I didn't know how to build a farm, I didn't know what I was doing, but all of a sudden we became friends with farmers. And so we started to update the property. Again, this middle house is the recovery house. And there it is. We planted a fruit orchard. That like failed because we didn't know what we were doing. We love failure.
That's right.
Failure is one of the greatest teachers in life. Listen to anybody's story. They don't start off with every success they ever had. Nope. All the hard times, all the challenges, all the fails, all the times that things weren't just and right and fair. So we love failure, and the farm is a place that we can embrace and not fear failure. Because so many times people get in recovery and it's all or nothing, like this massive pressure to be perfect. It's nearly impossible. So the first thing we did is we had our housing residents fix up the house. It's an old farmhouse. I'm lying. It's made to look like an old farmhouse. It's actually 22 years old, the house. And it was like perfect for recovery housing. It was very odd, but the way they built it, it had like huge kitchens. So we have like 3 massive refrigerators, all the square footage you can imagine. Our residents did all the work, and we just used it as workforce development, as modeling, as teaching. They earned, rent-free week after week after week. And so we fixed that up. And then we built a 20,000 square foot garden, which is massive. And it's surrounded by a fence because we have savage deer in Medina County. For real, they've like taken over our town. And so we had to protect that. And that was a massive project because we had to test the soil and order fertilizer. I mean, the pile of compost was as big as that small house. So when I was like, just drop it off in the front yard, they're like, no, we can't do that. The truck can't even come, so you just learn to problem solve through all those problems. With Sam and the team I have, Sam and I always talk, there is no problem in our community that we can't solve very, very quickly. That's what we do. So the farm was just like a new task. Then a bunch of us went to bee school. So we do beekeeping. I know, this is Sam. And with the bees, my husband is really taken to the bees. Like, he kind of does bees like he drank alcohol. So probably every time I leave town, I have a new hive in my backyard, right? So I'm like, okay, I just have to be ready for hive number 4 or 5 that will be in the backyard. We started with bees at our recovery center, because we're wild. And then we processed honey, so we made whole honey. I know, it's so cool. And now our guys, this is John with one of our residents who's really taken on beekeeping. We don't force them to do anything. The program, all of our houses have service requirements. From day 1 until you move out at our house. It doesn't take 3 weeks or 3 months to be able to figure out how to give back. So we can do that right away. And so the guys that live at the farm, they do their service work on the farm. Okay? And so they are learning all the things of how to take care of a farm. Then, I know, then we got baby chicks. The baby chicks lived in the recovery house to start. These are a day old. This is what they look like. And man, these girls, they have produced, Sam, over 1,500 eggs that have gone back into the recovery community. So our residents designed the chicken coop. They take care of them, they clean them, they feed them, they collect eggs, and then the eggs currently go back into the recovery houses. We're gonna do more chickens, and the idea is that eggs will start going to our local food bank soon. So our guys will then be combating local food insecurities. Right? Here's more of them. They're just super cool creatures. I love them. Okay, then Yes. Then we got goats. This is Bill and Bob. Yep. 15 miles from Alcoholics Anonymous Foundation. We support multiple pathways, but we do have a goat named Bill and Bob. And goat math is a real thing. I have strong boundaries. And I was like, we're gonna have 2 goats in the first year. Because I'm worried about sustainability, right? They love to farm, and I love to farm too, but I was like, how do we farm for 10, 15, 20 years? I'm not really just worried about right now as the executive director. So we get Bill and Bob, right? And then we get more goats, okay? I know, they're so cute. And our residents love them. They provide therapeutic value. I swear you cannot be mad and hate life in the goat pen. It's not possible. And then we got one of our goats that we got. She was a female. She was pregnant. And so we have more goats. And let me see, you're gonna see some familiar. So here's Jimmy McGill. Jimmy, right here you are, right, with Jimmy with his best friends. Right, here's Gerald. You notice him not in the goat pen. So Gerald is in the background of all the pictures, because he is like, no. Jimmy is like hugging and like wants to live with the goats. Our farm, we do kind of do a trauma-informed like process, so you can come and you can go in, but be ready. Because I say goats are kind of like people early in recovery. They lack boundaries. They don't understand social etiquette or personal space, right? And so you just kind of have to hang on with them. So we now have 12 goats. These are our babies. I know. So I get a phone call at 7 o'clock in the morning. Hey, Stefanie, something's coming out of the goat's butt. I was like, only a man would report labor like that, right? What? She's pregnant, we knew that. And so, we didn't get there in time. Our recovery housing residents helped birth the goats. You talk about like a recovery experience that you didn't expect, right? And then we had a donor that was like, you guys need a miniature pony. I was like, okay, thanks, you know? And so this is Sunny. And then another donor was like, Sunny needs a friend. And this is Otis, like our disheveled donkey. I love him. And so they run out the field. And when Sunny showed up, Sunny was in a really small pasture. And when he showed up, for the first like 20 minutes, he just ran that field. And it was like freedom. Like it was the most beautiful sight. Yeah, you'll see our guys out with them. They take care of them. Here's the garden. I've never been in a garden this big. You literally go in the middle of it and you feel the energy of life happening. It is like, you talk about serenity. It's happening right there. The first year we had 1,000 plants. Our farm raised over about 1,000 pounds of produce that went into our local food bank to combat local food insecurities. 1,000 pounds. We're like, okay, we can beat that, right? We're in recovery, we just don't do things small. And so we doubled the garden. We just passed 3,600 pounds for this year. Yeah, and yeah. You can see some of that, just bucket loads. And it was the talk of the town at our recovery center. And now we've built another 20,000 square foot garden space. I think next year we can probably do about 8,000 pounds of produce, changing what food insecurities look in our community using people in recovery.
Yeah.
Right? Here's more of it. And then we were like, okay, let's just try to give some away. So we built this little produce pantry and we put this at our recovery center. Now, I've tried to do programming on like wellness and eat healthy, and nobody cares. You put free vegetables out, they start caring. So it started to teach me about how we engage people, right? We have to provide the vehicle. We have to give them access. You can't just say it and teach them, right? We have to do it with them. And people are sending me pictures of stuffed peppers and sauce, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And then the Cleveland Clinic, which is next door to us, calls and says, hey, can we have a free produce pantry outside of our ER? Yep. So the recovery guys, they drive our little side-by-side right, down the sidewalk to a branch of one of the top hospitals in the world, and they fill it with produce. And Gerald was around in that time when we first started this. That pantry was gone within 24 hours. Right? And there's this sign that talks about that this produce is a result of empowering and supporting people impacted by addiction. Right? So you talk about a recovery-oriented system of care and what it looks like. This is what it looks like. Then we got funding. I went to United Way, and they were like, "We don't have any money." I was like, "You probably have a little bit," and so they did. A little bit, as in 15,000, right, to give me this hoop house I wanted, because I wanted like the Cadillac of hoop houses. Again, if we're gonna do it, let's do it right. So we built this hoop house. So we're gonna start doing work in the hoop house. That's gonna extend our growing season. We're in Northern Ohio, so our season is tight. And again, this is gonna be a mecca of failure. I cannot wait to try all the coolest things in the world, right? And teach our guys how to navigate through that process. And girls, because we started Recovery for Her, which is a recovery program built by women for women, which they love, right? Then we built a barn, because we had to put all of our crap somewhere. Then last year we learned how to tap maple trees, and we created like 5 drops of maple syrup. We were really proud of those 5 drops, I will tell you. This is a really hard process, but we're gonna do this again this year. We've marked the trees, we have the path, we visited the farm. So we just learn, we teach them that skill. How do we learn things? How do we try things, right? Then our guys, we started renovating that little cottage, Wells Cottage. So we had a contractor come in. This is Randy. Randy was a founding board member of Hope Recovery Community. He's in recovery, started his own business. He comes back, he gives back, you see how it works. Our guys all learn how to drywall, right? So they're learning maintenance, they're learning farm-specific curriculum, agriculture, landscaping. Here's Wells Cottage. Sam's probably in that picture, so Sam's everywhere, clearly. Sam lives at Wells Cottage once a week because Recovery Month makes us all need more recovery because we're so busy. So she goes there. And then we noticed that our youth were really underserved everywhere. So we built a children's garden. We partnered with the organization. They wrote the grant, so they just wrote a grant for me and gave me money, which I was like, this is even better. So now we have an interactive children's garden. We built youth services off of that. I wrote a grant. We are funded by the Ohio Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services. We have served 562 kids in the past 6 months. When our guys have their kids come out, they have a place that they can work through the reunification process. Here's all of our youth services. So you can see this farm, right? It really supports the 4 dimensions of recovery, the healing power of nature, that therapeutic activity and collaboration, peer-based skill building and empowerment, nutritional benefits and workforce development. There's all these big things really occurring. These were our goals, and I'm not gonna read them, but basically we were gonna increase housing, increase recovery, and we wanted somebody to replicate this model. This was goals day 1. And so far we've hit all those goals except for the replication of the model, right? So this farm today, right, we've served 40 residents, 200 volunteers, 75 tours, 1,000 visitors, over 4,000 pounds of produce at this point, or over the 2 years. Everything you heard about. And then in February, I wrote another grant, and we got enough money to hire 2 guys. They're actual farm hands. They live in our house, and they're farm hands, so they have jobs. So we're now creating jobs. These are all the partnerships. Here's the thing, a lot of people that aren't interested in recovery are interested in farms. They leave really interested in recovery. People that'll fund farms won't necessarily fund people impacted by addiction. I don't care. I'll take your money either way. You know what I'm saying? So what this has done is it's cast our net massively bigger. We went to the Parks and Recreation. We went on a word from the governor. We're the only people in recovery at this conference of 1,000 people, right? It was amazing. Massive, massive impact, right? And the residents 100% indicate improvement in their ability to work as a team, their confidence, their communication, right? Employment, stable housing, all the things. What is it like on a farm? There was a resident that lived right? It's made him feel as though he's part of something bigger. The animals, they depend on him. They talk about non-judgmental purpose. And you know what happens on the farm? You lose the street mentality. You don't feed that donkey, somebody's going to tell on you. Right? They're often, in the beginning, more protective of the animals than they are each other. Right? And we work on the community, right? The social model of housing. This innovation, and all innovation, leads to unexpected impact, stigma reduction. Our community has gone from a community that feared addiction to a community now that embraces recovery. It's unbelievable. This was not a community you wanted to recover 6-7 years ago. Engagement in the community, with family, with community partners, purpose. The learning and acceptance in the culture of failure has been profound on the organization, my staff, and the people that we serve. Right? And it's this layered impact. Layered. It's just massive. And it just continues to happen. We're in year 3 currently, and we're just getting started. Right? And so the challenges, funding, skill set, expertise, that's easy. You just date your community and make lots of friends with farmers. They'll take care of you. Funding, we have local, state, and federal funding, a diversified funding stream. So it's like, not all of our eggs are not in my basket. You have weather, you have things you can't control. Welcome to recovery. The farm is like a symbol for recovery. Bees are like a symbol for recovery, right? In the space. And so, lastly, what's next? Again, we're doubling that garden. We've started women's programming, the hoop house, the cottage. We're going to restore. We're going to have an entire new barn built. We're completing a curriculum if Sam and I ever are on the ground in Ohio together long enough to do so. Really, though, is the replication. We've looked at 2 properties in our community to be a level 1 step down. So smaller farms that people can move from the big house to the smaller house and continue their farming. And again, we want another organization or another state, Gerald, to replicate the model. Okay, this is my information. You can feel free to stalk me in any way you need to. I'm fully open to that. You can reach out. Does anybody have any questions?
Somebody got a question.
Comment, any questions? Yeah. Yes.
My name's Marcus Onetic. I have been living on public land for the last year in a tent that I got from Perfectly Flawed. And this whole model that you just described is in my bag right here.
Okay.
And I would love to get the land and just go for it, because I've got all the tiny houses like done, everything's ready to go. And formerly I was a Catholic worker in Denver, and we did this whole model with small beloved villages, we call them. So I'm wondering, because our population's more city dweller type, that have never experienced even going outside. But like in Detroit, they're doing like urban farms and all that stuff. So I'm wondering, how could you put that in the city, or put it like be a destination for that beloved village? Like it's the village of Martin Luther King.
Yeah.
And it'll bring the whole country together rather than and recover all of our addictions in the process, just by supporting the people that have been left behind in this country. So in Denver, they burned down my house after I moved away. So it's like the gentry versus the homeless people, and right now we got Grants Pass law coming online, so now I'm a criminal because of my lifestyle. So how do I how do I institute this like you did
Yeah.
quickly, so that we can all work together going
Yeah.
forward.
Yeah, number one, I couldn't do it alone. So you have to be organized. You have to figure out a way to organize and mobilize resources in your community, whatever that looks like. And that could be one other person, right? I had a full team of people, but I had a lot of things working against us. And then everybody always asks, well, how did you fund this? Well, Columbus is where our state government was. I coincidentally happened to be in Columbus with the big funder one day, and I shot again. I said, listen, I've got this great idea, and you don't want to miss it. And she's like, we will fund that, right? And then last year, she's like, we'll fund it again. Do you need more money? And I was like, yep, give me more money, right? And so, but first you have to get organized, right? You've got to put a plan in place, but you've got to get organized. You got to rally some troops, and then you just start. And you don't take no for an answer. And no is just a redirection for me. That's just information. That's not a hard stop ever. That's just a shift. And it's information I take in and say, okay, well that wasn't the path, now let's find another path. Just like we do in recovery. Yes?
I'm coming.
He's like, I'm gonna yell. I'll repeat it.
I see that you work with people that are directly impacted by the system through justice.
Yes.
What percentage would you say they're on the farm that have been?
70%. So he asked how many people are justice involved that are in the farm program? About 70%. And a large number of our folks are justice involved. So we make sure that we meet their specific needs. And then we make sure that lived experience meets them in that process as well. I have a guy that's in the jail 5 days a week. He's actually on the farm team as well. Yeah, so he shows up and he talks about the farm and you know what I mean? And today we're on a wait list. We only can meet the needs of 20% of the people that request housing from us today. So big, yeah. That's my next big task.
Do you offer grant writing classes?
Ooh, that's a really great idea. You know what's funny is I was talking to somebody yesterday about imposter syndrome, and I honestly would have been like, oh, I'm a grant writer, but clearly I am. And yes, we'll consider that, but here's what I've really done is I've built relationships and created opportunities where I wasn't writing grants against. I don't like competition. I do, I'm gonna win, but you know what I mean? I don't want competition in grants. And so I've created a lot of opportunities where I've let other people have my ideas, which is, I don't care who gets the idea, just give me the money. So I can go do the work. Do you know what I mean? And I'll make you a star. It doesn't make a difference to me. But so we've done a lot through relationship building, and I just kind of drop. I used to play a lot of poker, so I slow play everything for the most part. And I just drop little ideas, and then all of a sudden a funder will be like, hey, I have this great idea. It's something we've been telling him for the last 18 months. And he's like, why don't you put together a proposal? I'm like, cool, no problem. And I've learned that I leave money on the table. I don't get no enough. So I ask for more these days, and I do layered proposals. So hey, you want to give me $500,000, or you want to give me $250,000, or you want to give me $100,000? You know what I mean? So and nobody wants to give you that bottom layer, especially big givers. They hate that. So you're at least in the middle of the top usually. But you got to shoot that shot. But yeah, I guess we'll consider a grant class. We could maybe do that. Sam, can we do that? She here? Yeah. Yeah, she's like, we can do that, yeah. We can do whatever. Yeah.
All right, looks like we're out of time. Thank you, Stefanie.
Yes, thank you guys. Thank